Sunday afternoon. We are well into the first week of Advent, and I'm Pastor Lou Kilgore, and I'm here reaching out to you through this medium to encourage you, to strengthen you. For some of you, just to carry on our regular conversation. I really appreciate the opportunity to do a kind of check-in. I think I appreciate it anyway. Some days, this is full disclosure, some days I feel a little intimidated to be in front of the camera and talking to you and having to figure out what to do with everything that I'm managing over here, because some days are easier than others. I'll tell you what I'm talking about in a moment. But yesterday we were trying to do an imaginary projection into the journey of Mary and Joseph, and celebrating the whole element that what Advent lifts up for us in this season, but it's true in every season all the time, is that faith is a journey from here to there. It's a journey. You'll hear people say during the special Christmas season, that we should try to have the joy of Christmas and the happiness of Christmas every day of our lives. Well, that's true. I suppose it would be wonderful, first of all, if Christmas brings joy, which it doesn't always. Some people it brings reminders of great sadness and great loss. It's a comparison to what used to be to what is now. And for some, it's really kind of an unbearable reality. I have some colleagues and friends who bail out on Christmas, and they go to the Bahamas. And they go down there to the Bahamas with a friend, and they just sort of block out the whole Christmas thing. Some of us would never be able to afford to do that even if we wanted to. So what we say, which is, would it be nice if we had the spirit of Christmas all year long? Okay? In the same way, I'm saying what we point to and what we try to get out the suitcases of and dust off from last year at this time is that there are elements of Advent, the journey, if you will, that are part of life every day, every season. And yesterday we talked about the journey. And the days before that I talked about the hope, the undying hope that characterizes a life lived believing that we are walking with God, that we're not alone. Today, I think that, maybe because of what else is happening in my life today and all the things that I am thinking about and shouldering today, is that the other part of the Advent season, of really living into the Advent season, is the reminder that there really are some difficult days. There are some difficult days. And in thinking about Mary and Joseph, I have no idea what difficulties they encountered on the journey. At one point, I was going to go back and look it up, but at one point I went to the map to see how many miles it was that they walked. It's a long walk. It would have taken many days. And I don't know what obstacles they encountered along the way. Did they have to stop and rest overnight? But part of reawakening the telling of Mary and Joseph's journey is so that we have a way of thinking about our own journey. Not just the journey to Christmas, but our journey in life. Look, Mary was expecting a child. I'm sure that meant that her life was filled with that sort of the trauma and the joy of both worlds, right? I mean, she was expecting a baby. There is, for many women, even if they're expecting a child or they're carrying a child in times that they're not happy about, there's still this wonder element of being involved in something which is much bigger than who you are. And so there are these things that a pregnant woman treasures in her heart and feels them, and talking about them only makes it worse if there's a woman watching this today who was pregnant and then lost her child through miscarriage or through illness or something like that. Or maybe even a woman who made the decision to have an abortion. So when you talk about this wonderful, quote, wonderful moment of being pregnant, I'm not trying to make it superficially sweet, but it is a season of wonder. It is an experience of wonder on the journey. Mary is pregnant. She has no idea what will come of her child or of her life. She's lost her reputation, and thanks to kindness of Joseph, she is existing under the cover of his kindness. But even with the difficulty, even with all, this is not a great time for Mary to be pregnant. It's just not. And yet, being pregnant is a metaphor for what life is like. Life is always pregnant with the next moment, always. But that doesn't make the present moment any easier. I'm not sure if I'm getting to what I want to say today. The journey, it's a journey. It is a journey from here to there. It's good to keep that in mind. It's good to keep in mind that we can dust off a little bit what we have, our impression of where you're headed. What do you want to have happen? I'm not talking about make a goal and go for it. I'm just talking about, do you have a general idea of where you want to be? What you want to be happening in your life? Because it's a little easier to journey toward that if you have some idea of what you want it to be. That doesn't mean that I believe that if you want it, you'll get it. That's not me. So it's a journey. And on the journey, there are really, really difficult places. So let me change now to a more contemporary topic and part of what's on my mind in this Advent season. So I have two people who I know very well in my life, who now have contracted the COVID virus and are really fighting for their lives. There are some really hard places on the journey. It can be devastating to open our eyes to see how hard it can be. I have been talking with some people who also are dreading the arrival of the Christmas season because they just want to skip over it. They've had really, really critical grief. And Christmas brings it back to the surface in a way that is just inexplainable to anybody else. So they don't want to be around anybody. This week, also, in a way that I've been working very, very hard on my journey. I mean, if you want to know the answer to my question, what are you journeying for? In the last couple of years, it's been kind of an emerging goal for me, and I've shared it, and I think the church shares it, to be a really big part of the helping network in our community for parents who are trying to raise children today. And so we've established this preschool and this infant care center, right? And want to make it an infant care center that we're proud of, and that a center that in particular provides an option for people who have no option. They have children and they need a job, but they're single parents, they're unskilled and don't really have the ability to earn enough money to pay the rent, provide the food, and to pay for childcare so they can go to work. Our church has, we've taken off our jacket and jumped in the pool. We're in it. We're engaged in it. We're meeting and talking with and sharing with people in their sometimes really scary kinds of conditions. I had a mother a couple of weeks ago who came to me. We had coordinated for her to get a state subsidy. The state of New Jersey really values good quality preschool education and also infant care, and so the state, our school, not all schools do it, not all daycares do it, but our school accepts government subsidy, which means that we take families in who are too poor to accept, to afford the market price of childcare. But when we do that, then we meet people who are living, you hear these statistics about people who are living below the poverty level, right? So we meet them now. I meet them, I talk with them, I make plans with them, I try to help them to plan for care of usually what is more than one child, but often two children. And so this fun family I met, they enrolled their two children, one who was in the baby center and one who was in the 3-year-old center. And they were so thrilled, they were so happy to realize that we were going to meet them as far as we were. We went over halfway with the state and our tuition rates being low to provide for them. They came in, they were amazed. The baby center is beautiful. We have wonderful staff people who are there, who love children and love what they do. And so they come in and they can relax and they can go to work and not feel like they've left their kids on a street corner with someone and paid them $10 to watch them. But, in the middle of their life, they've run into some marital difficulties. And so this past week, the one mom came to me and she said, I just don't know what I'm going to do. So we work with them. We try to move mountains. We try to help to shape a world that is friendlier, we know, than the world that we know. But the point of telling you all this is, it makes me feel good. Even on the dark days of a pandemic, I feel good, and I feel good that my church members can be a part of this, and some of you are contributing directly to the school, and you're thinking about and praying about our ministry there with these families and making a difference there. And then along comes COVID yesterday, and one of our loving, caring teachers was diagnosed as having COVID. And that was in the morning, and so we thought, well, thank God it was only one part. So the preschool part we kept separate and isolated because we knew that this contagious virus, like you can make a bridge too wide, it can't jump across. And so we did. We had a bridge between the two staff. They never talked, they never anything. We had an isolation, sort of self-quarantine school. And so in the morning, we learned, sadly, that we were going to have to close the school for 2 weeks, which we know immediately. That means that those parents will now have to take 2 weeks off from work. And they already have all their savings exhausted. They already have worried about their rent. So, okay, the journey is full of things that are hard, right? Yeah. And then in the afternoon, one of our younger staff members in the infant care center called us and said that she'd just been diagnosed as having COVID. So that's it. The word goes out, the parents must all come, they get their children. We will all go and get tested, and we will say our prayers that we don't have the virus. And even more than that, we'll say a prayer that the families that have been a part of this team, this ministry of life survival, don't have this virus, because it's pretty devastating. So today feels hard for me. It's hard. It's not the end of the world, not even by a long shot. 2 weeks from now, we'll try to reopen, and hopefully, even though the pandemic may be worse in some areas, we might be able to find parents and children who've been unaffected and try to get them back on course. It's a journey. It's a journey. This is not the only goal I have, but that was a really big part of the goal of our church, our mission, if you will, direction. And it meets obstacles. There's some big obstacles in the world today. It was, also the journey is filled with a mixture of things, right? So some things come along that are very challenging, and I'm saying a prayer, and please do pray for our staff members who are sick. One is younger and one is older. The children predominantly seem to be spared. We had a mother earlier in the week who works in the hospital, and she's a single mom, and sadly she was diagnosed with COVID, so she got sent home from work, but that also meant that her kids had to be pulled out of our program because they may be carrying the disease without symptoms. I didn't forget that this is supposed to be, you come into my office and I ask you how you're doing. Right? But fair is fair. Today, I'm kind of like, I'll let the roles reverse a little bit, and you can hear a little bit of what Friday, this first week of December, presents for me as a person. And so that as I'm encouraging you on your journey, and I'm saying words about what I know the journey of life is like, I don't want you to think that I live in denial or that I'm somehow spared. I'm not. And as I told you earlier, I don't even want to count the number of people right now that I know who have the COVID virus. It's unbelievable to me. It's unbelievable. And so I'm praying in particular for these two other friends that I talked about, one of whom is in the hospital. And I think they're going to be okay, but it's not part of the good journey when the ambulance has to come and pick you up. I have some other friends that have been through some dark days with it, but they're going to be okay, it looks like, except for the lingering effects. Anyway, I started to tell you. So in the middle of what sometimes can be just, oh my gosh, what next? One of our things that's going on in our community of our churches, we have some people that have volunteered to take our list of names and people in the community and just call them and check in on them and say, how are you doing? Just want to let you know I'm thinking about you. And it's days of isolation. It's kind of nice to have a call, to have a phone call. My wife and I decided this year, different than any other year, we've sent out Christmas cards and wrote notes and said, we're thinking about you. God bless you. We hope you're okay. Challenging times demand new things. So I got a reminder yesterday from one of our callers who said, hey, listen, could you just, I just want you to know that this person's birthday is coming up, and it's like her 90th birthday, and, she loves the church, and she misses everything that's going on. Really be cool if you would give her a call and wish her a happy birthday. So in the middle of everything else that's going on, all the confusion, the breakdown, all the other struggle, the things we want to do, and comes this opportunity. And I said, oh my goodness, I will absolutely do that. I picked up the phone, I called her this morning, and there was nothing profound about the conversation, except the moment was profound. I wished her a happy birthday, we chatted for a little while, and then I hung up the phone, and then I sent a message to the caller who had thought to arrange that. And I said, you realize you're a miracle worker, right? You're a miracle worker. In a time of isolation and despairing moments on the journey, that's a bright light. That's a bright light you turned on. So thank you. So, yeah, it's a journey. We have a destination, more or less. It's filled with challenges, but it's also filled with little surprises, too. I try to model for you as much as I can, and what I feel comfortable with, is to share enough of my struggle, too, so that it's not just me up here as some sort of a impervious person. I'm not. But I am really glad for the moments to connect, to do my own inventory, and have you watch and listen and care with me and for me. I really do pray, and I do really mean what I say when I pray that God will bless you in your life, strengthen you for your journey, and be with you, give you a sense of God's presence with you, and help you to clarify where we're going, where you're headed to, and how you're doing today. God bless you, my friends. I'll be on this YouTube and Facebook stream on Sunday morning at 10:30, second Sunday of Advent. It's a communion Sunday, celebration of the Eucharist, and then I'll be back here on Monday for a continuation of our conversation. God bless you, my friends. I'll see you then.